Hoje o Instituto fez mais um evento social, só que foi um evento diferente. Tivemos a visita de um grupo de americanos, de uma ONG chamada Blackman's Option, que estiveram na Maré e estiveram no Turano. Foi maravilhoso. Eles contribuíram com 120 cestas básicas. Conseguimos também fazer o Cine Comunidade para as crianças. E no final tivemos um jantar para todos os convidados.
So today was a wonderful day. It's a privilege to be able to be in the position to give back. And as we travel, we see things and we want to do something. And this was a perfect opportunity today to give back to a community and be a part of this community in Brazil.
Oh, today was a very wonderful day. It was a life-changing experience. I got to see exactly what Rodrigo does. He has a very great project. I think it's very inspirational. To me, he's a hero.
Agradeço demais ao Ralph, da Blackman's Option, pela parceria e mostra que, independente das culturas diferenciadas, todos podemos pensar pelo bem maior, que é o ser humano, e a melhora das crianças através de projetos sociais, esporte e entretenimento. Ralph, a você, meu máximo respeito. Muito obrigado pela parceria e a visita aqui no nosso país. Os.
Welcome to BMO Radio with your host, Eric Spencer, president of the Black Man's Option.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to another edition of BMO Radio, Black Man's Option. I am the Prez, Eric Spencer. I appreciate you brothers coming out tonight. Today, we have a special guest. This is a brother that I've been trying to get hooked up with for at least 9 to 10 months, but our schedules have been very busy. You know, he's busy doing the things that he's done, and you know, of course, we're busy with the stuff that we're doing. But tonight, we're able to come together in a series of podcasts, having discussions about what's really going on in Brazil. Tonight's guest goes by the name of Black Brazil Today. This brother has a webpage. He has done over 400 articles on talking about race relations and what it's like to be a black man in Brazil. He covers topics from political to sociological to even philosophical. Some of the things that ideologies that are in Brazil that people don't talk about. You know, he has a YouTube channel with over 300 videos. This brother has dedicated almost 16 years to doing research and sharing his experiences as an American black man living in Brazil and the things that he has seen. We want to bring him up tonight because we want somebody that has insight like no other. This brother has a lot more insight than most people that are talking about Brazil in regards to you being as a black man. I'm a fan. I read a lot of his articles. I look at a lot of his videos. And by listening to him has helped me to determine my views, not just by what I've personally seen, but also having somebody that is way more knowledgeable than myself when it comes to Brazil. And I want to give him the opportunity to share his information, his knowledge, his wisdom with you, because he's not going to give you the sugar-coated He's going to give you the reality. He's going to give you things to make you think. And I think that's something that needs to be said and done in this space, because we want to give brothers the most accurate information so that they can make the best decision for themselves. And if people give you wrong information, you could make a wrong decision that could be catastrophic to the rest of your life. So, without further ado, let me bring up the man with the master plan. When you're talking about Brazil, my man BBT, aka Marco or Marquez. Hey
What's
man,
up, people? Just call me Marcus. Just call me
okay,
Marcus, man. How y'all doing tonight?
man, good man. How are you doing? Look. First and foremost, let me just say this,
Uh,
because you and I talked behind the scenes, but I want everybody to know exactly what it is that you do. I want you to give everybody a little bit of background and context of who you are as Black Brazil today.
mm. Wow, that's.
Well,
I,
okay,
I,
let me
I
break
want to
it down.
keep
Let me break it
this.
down a
I
little
want to.
bit.
I, I want to keep this short and get to the point.
Okay,
Because I just to open the question, I could go on for about 10 or 15 minutes just in the intro, but I want to keep it short.
okay,
Um, I'm just an African American man who has a interest in the African diaspora, and I stumbled across some information about Brazil on Christmas Eve of 1999. I picked up an encyclopedia that's called Africana, the Encyclopedia of the African American and African Experience, and it's about a 2,000-page book. Nowadays, they've cut it down to like 10 equal books, if I'm not mistaken. So it's not one big encyclopedia. They got like 10 different volumes. And I was honestly just blown away by all the stuff I learned about Brazil in that book. I'm like, how is it that they got all of this Black history going on in Brazil and we don't know about this? I'm not saying everybody doesn't, but that was my first experience because I know with a lot of Black people, African Americans, when we think of Brazil, if you go back to the 70s and 80s, all we really knew was Pelé. It's like
right,
you don't really get an idea of what is going on in Brazil. We knew about our struggle. We knew about what's going on to some degrees in places like Jamaica or Haiti, Africa in general. But who'd have thought all of this Black history was going on in Brazil? And when I picked up that book, I'm just flipping through the pages and I'm like, wow, Candomblé, Capoeira, Lelia Gonzalez, Abagias do Nascimento, Cartola, Pixinguinha. It just went on and on. Carolina de Jesus. And I'm like, I couldn't believe it. And I'm just like, as deep as our history is in the United States in terms of Black history, I had no idea that Brazil has such a deep history having to do with African descendants. So from there, I started writing online, various websites. I started traveling to Brazil in about September of 2000, and I just never stopped. I mean, some years I would go twice. I would go there, spend 3 weeks, come back. I mean, I just dug deep. After the first year, I didn't really know Portuguese that well, but when I got into Brazil, the internet was starting to blow up. Translation sites were starting to blow up. Uh, Access to all this information about Black Brazilians was just starting to come out. And as I became more comfortable with reading and speaking Portuguese, the world just blew up for me to be able to bring this. And I was just like, Black Americans got to know about this. So that's been my journey since about December 24th, 1999.
so you said you had been writing articles for other people,
hmm
but when did you
hmm
officially launch Black Brazil Today? And I know you told me that it was another
hmm
name before you finalized
Yeah.
Black Brazil Today. But when did you officially launch your own website?
So in November of 2011, I launched a blog called Black Women of Brazil, Black Women of Brazil, and a lot of people asked why it is I chose that name because as the blog started taking off, the name gave people the impression that the blog was by a group of Black Brazilian women because My intention was never to bring necessarily attention to myself. I wanted to share the story of Black Brazil, and I wanted to feature their own words. So the way I set up my blog was I'm gonna use material that's coming out of Brazil, and I'm gonna put my own spin on it. I'm gonna put my own reaction on it. So I was doing reactions on the blog way back when. So November of 2011, I debuted with Black Women of Brazil, and that morphed and it changed. I would say somewhere in 2017 or 18, I changed the name into Black Brazil Today for a reason that we'll talk about in another discussion.
Okay. All right. Yeah. And let me let everybody know this is the first of a series of discussions. Uh, we've already talked about doing a series of discussions because there's so much information that he has to offer. So we don't want to be able to do it. We're not going to be able to do it at one sitting. So this is going to be an ongoing discussion. We may do 5 or 6, but it's going to be a series. So get used to seeing Black Brazil Today. We're going to call him BBT on the
Mhm.
on the on the
Right.
radio. All right. So you said you're going back and
Mhm.
forth to Brazil. You're very engaged in learning the culture and whatnot. So when did you actually make that journey to say, "Yo, I need to be here full time,
You mean in terms of just visiting or living?
living"? Like you're going back and
Well,
forth.
yeah. Well, I moved to Sao Paulo in August of 2012. I stayed there until September of 2021. So I've been back here in the States about two and a half, a little bit more than 2.5 years now. Just it was an experience. I'm glad this is a series because it's too much to talk about on one episode, obviously. But
Of
I
course.
stayed about 9 years and maybe 2 or 3 months in Sao Paulo.
Now, what was your experience there as an American Black man in Brazil?
Oh man, what can I say? I mean, to talk about my experience as a
in,
to talk about my
in
experience as a
regards
Black
to
man in
race.
Brazil.
Let me just break it down. As far as race, let me just give it
Okay.
to you as a Black man,
Uh-huh.
American Black man in Brazil. What was your experience, initial experience anyway?
Okay, so my first, I want to say first 7 years going to Brazil it was all in Bahia. Okay. Um, Man, we talked online about this a few days ago, but as I said, Brazilians are very welcoming when it comes to meeting Americans, specifically Americans. I never felt that it was even a thing of being a Black American. It was just the fact that I was an American. And I told you, there were times when I would get invited to come talk to kids at schools. And there were times I felt like I was a rock star because wherever I went, people rolled out the red carpet. I mean, I met everyday people just having conversations day to day. But when I would get invited to places to speak, sometimes I would have an interpreter until I was able to speak Portuguese well enough on my own. But people were just fascinated with being able to talk to an American. So I never, as much as we talk about racial divisions and racial discrimination in Brazil, I can honestly say as an American, I never felt that. The funny thing is, it's funny how the powers that be deal with Black people depending on what country they're from. When I'm in the States, when Brazilians come to the States, and I've had Black Brazilian friends tell me this, they'll be like, their their guidance people at the university would be like, look, don't get too mixed up with those African Americans. They're kind of trouble. You want to stay away from them. But then when I get to the Brazil, it's Brazilians, they roll out the red carpet for foreign Black people while they treat their local Black people kind of like trash. So it goes the
Mm,
same way. So I'm saying this is why this is so important that Black people across borders get to know each other's struggle.
that's very powerful. Very powerful. So
Oh, yeah.
your image is very important as a Black American
Hmm.
in a foreign country, especially Brazil. Now, why do you think that
Hmm.
is?
Well, as much as we understand that we have such a deep level of inequality in the United States, Black Americans do need to understand that once we step outside of the United States, the status of America being basically the center of the world in so many areas, whether it's geopolitics or it's the economy or it's the cultural realm, our influence stretches everywhere. So regardless of whether you're black or white, as a black person, sometimes your Americanness sticks out and is appreciated more than you being black. Because what I'm saying is if you walk around in Brazil and they don't perceive that you're a foreigner, they're looking at you like you're just one of them. Brazil is very, people like to deny it, but it's like they look at black people as second class citizens. But then they discover, oh, he's not. He's an American. Oh, ele é americano. It's different. Now they want to know me. People will call me. People will contact me. Come to our event. Can you come and say a couple of words here? Can you? We doing some fundraising. We're having a meeting about black entrepreneurs in Brazil, and it would be great to have an American there. So there's times when you feel like your Americanness actually is bigger than them just seeing you as a black person.
Wow. Wow. So you know what? And,
Yeah.
and that's funny because we talked about it, offline, but the image that you have as a black American is very powerful, especially when you
hmm
go to these countries because they look at you as an inspiration because they're not represented in their culture.
hmm
So like the number one
hmm
show, I tell everybody this, I said the number one show in Brazil is Everybody Hates Chris because that's their version of Good Times. It really is. And when I tell them they play the theme song Fresh Prince of Bel-Air in the club, people are like, how is that possible? That's not even a real song. I said, but that's how they connect. And now if you go look at Madredo, they're doing line dancing to old 80s and 90s R&B under the bridge in
Eric,
Madredo.
Eric, Eric,
Go ahead, tell it,
I
tell
don't know
it.
how many times. Listen, I don't think I didn't really grasp the importance of African American culture in Brazil because what I'm saying is, and I've talked about this on the blog over and over, the lack of representation that they've had in Brazil for so long. When they see African Americans, it's like, oh my God, they feel the representation through our culture, through our media representation that they've been lacking. So I've done stories on the blog where I talked about Everybody Hates Chris, enormous show. Fresh Prince, which they call maluco no pedaço, which means a crazy person in the house, right, or in the piece.
Mhm.
That's So Raven. They love that show. What was the fourth one? That Damon Wayans program. I never watched that
Oh,
one, but my
oh,
wife and
oh, oh, you
kids,
talking about the
they
oh,
love those shows.
yeah, my wife
Yeah,
and
they
kids.
they love those shows. Listen, man, I'm trying to just keep this narrow because I'm saying, dude, if I start telling you stories, it'll be bonkers because they love Will Smith there. They love. I
Oh,
mean,
I
I saw
know that.
somebody in the chat said that it's not Regina King who's big in Brazil. It is what is her name? She played on Martin, and then she played on Everybody
Oh,
Hates Chris
Tisha
as
Arnold.
his mother. What is
Tisha
that
Arnold.
woman's name?
Tisha
Tashina
Arnold.
Arnold. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Tashina Arnold, they
Yeah.
love her. So they overdub everything. The people who were doing the overdubs in Brazil, there was a big controversy there because black Brazilians are so engaged now. When they discovered that all the people overdubbing the Fresh Prince were white, they had a conniption. They just lost it. You mean to tell me this black woman who don't want to see her husband with a white woman and her voice is being overdubbed by a white woman, they flipped over that. They had pictures of all the overdub people on Everybody Hates Chris. It's wild. There are two guys in Bahia right now. They're walking around as the Brazilian. They call them the Baiano Will Smith
I
and Martin
saw that.
Lawrence.
I
They're walking
saw
around the
that.
streets of Bahia, and people are losing because bad boys are walking. The fourth part just came out. These
Yeah.
brothers is walking on the street, and it's like the Baiano. It's just absolutely amazing. African Americans need to realize this. Everything that comes out of the States, this is how black media in Brazil blew up. Not only covering their own media, but covering us. It's like everything we do is big news down there. Now, I have problems with that to a degree, but that's for another episode.
Yes, we'll save that for another episode.
hmm
We'll save the juicy stuff for the next show.
Okay.
But
Yeah,
but
yeah,
but that's
yeah.
what we
It's a lot
try
to
to
talk about.
yeah, and that's what we try to explain here is like your image really matters, and it's very powerful. But here in the States, they don't want you to think that
hmm
you have that type of influence. But when you get there, you do. And if you're not used to it, it's overwhelming. Like you said, you feel like a rock star. In the beginning of the video, you
Yeah.
saw us doing an event in Santa Teresa, and that's how we felt. it's
Hmm.
like when you get overwhelmed
Yeah.
because you don't feel like you're anybody, but they're like, I've never met an American before. I never thought I was gonna have a chance to have to meet an American. So they want to take pictures. It's a photo op. Everybody want to hug.
Yeah.
They
Yeah.
trying to get numbers and they choosing. I'm like, okay, wait, hey, we just here for the for the fundraiser and for the event, but they're capitalizing. They're like, yo, I may never ever get a chance to be this close to an African American again. And it's overwhelming, but it's appreciated for us because of the way that we're perceived here. I'll say that now.
Listen, I know I told you this story before, but I'm going to tell it because your viewers they have to hear this because this used to happen to me so much. My very first trip to Salvador, I arrived on September 1st, 2000. I went to this tourism section in the Pelodino area. Anybody been to Bahia knows about the famous
Yeah,
Pelodino area. I went there
right.
to exchange my money, and I had on all fila. I was fila just from head to toe. I had on a fila, uh, what do you want to
Jumpsuit.
call it?
Yeah, yeah. You had a
Do
jogging
rag.
suit on.
I had on a fila. I had a fila jogging suit, fila gym shoes, and a fila do rag. I went in there and exchanged my money. And when I went in there was this brother that was standing outside the place. He was passing out pamphlets because it was a tourism agency. Man, he saw me when I came out of there. He just lost his mind. Americano, Americano. Ah. I mean, he lost it. I mean, it was like, do you remember that scene in Coming to America
Yes,
where
yeah,
Eddie Murphy's character
yes,
Eddie
yes,
Murphy's character was walking around, and this brother from Africa was like, "I could not believe I'm seeing you." You remember that scene? That's what
yes.
it was like. I could not believe it. I'm like, dog, chill out, man. We got to be really good friends. He started taking me around the city. We exchanged. This was before the internet started jumping off in Brazil. They didn't even have cell phones at the time. But I used to get that in a lot of places. People would find out that there's an American in the house. It was like everybody wants to get to know him. But that moment will stick with me forever.
Yeah, and you know what? In 2018, we went to Salvador, and we went to the mall there, Shopping da Bahia, the one of the big malls,
Hmm.
and we had that
Hmm.
same thing happen. And it was a
Yeah.
guy there. He had on a T-shirt, had on like Martin Luther King, Malcolm X, Obama, and stuff like
Yeah.
that. And when we walked by him, and he heard us speaking English. He did the exact same thing, and I'm like, and he spoke English, so he was like
Okay.
super excited, and that was our first time really like okay, this is we're just here, but to us we didn't realize it then, the impact that we have. But over the
Yeah,
years,
man.
us traveling and seeing how people
Mhm.
respond and doing the outreach stuff along with traveling there as a group, you start to notice things and you're like, yo, okay, so they really view you in a different light. And now
Yeah.
you're starting to see more of it because they emulate so much from the style. Like I remember wife beaters and do-rags, you couldn't even get there. And they would go crazy over a wife beater, a do-rag, and an NBA
Listen,
jersey.
listen. I, man, I can't even describe everything. It's like, do you know that they're selling do rags in Sao Paulo now?
Yes.
I got to do a story about it. I'm amazed by that. I'm like, wow, even they taking do rags. It's like, I got video, stuff that I have recorded over the years, and I just remember everything. I got a story coming up right now, and I want African Americans to think about this. I haven't done it. I've been sitting on this video since 2008, and one of these days I got to do something with it. There was a incident with Oprah Winfrey some years ago where I think she was in France or somewhere. She was somewhere in Europe, and
Hmm.
somebody walked up to her and said, "What's up, my N word?" Right?
Right.
So my question for African Americans is, we know how we use the word. We know how it can be an ugly thing if it's used by people outside of our community, but it can be a term of affection among ourselves. But how do you feel when you hear other Black people who are not part of our culture using that word? Because I had that experience, and it was just like, I'm like, there's a barbershop in Sao Paulo. I don't know. I think somebody told me it closed recently, but for years you can find other brothers who wrote about this online. The name of his shop is actually Niggas Place. It's in English. It's called Niggas Place. And people looking like, he said, I interviewed the guy, the owner of the shop. And he says,
Uh-huh.
yeah, man, you Black Americans come here all the time. Like, man, what's up with this name? And he explained it. He was like, dude, this word is not part of our culture. We get it out of the hip hop. We emulate what comes out of the hip hop. And I was talking to this young brother. He had his own business. And I just, I was just kicking it with him. And he was just like, yeah, the niggers. And we watched the clips, video clips, the niggers, the niggers. I was like, I'm like, okay, how do African Americans feel about that? That's a story I have to do one day because it blew me away. I'm like,
What
man, how do I deal with this?
what
Hip
I'm gonna
hop, how do we deal with that? Go
well
ahead.
hold on now I'm gonna tell you something. We had that experience in South Africa, and the first thing that we
Okay.
said was like, don't say that word because you don't really
Hmm.
understand the meaning of it uh, as it relates to us. You just hear it from what we say as far as a slang. You think it's fashionable, but
Hmm.
you don't understand the history
Hmm.
behind it and how we were able to take it and spin it to where now we've taken the power out of it, or we know when you hear the GA, it's a term of endearment versus the ER, it's a sign for you to
Hmm.
get your ass whooped. So,
Well, the barber who I was talking to about this, and he explained it. He was like, he knew the historical context of the word United States, but he says, look, that word is not part of our culture. So when we use it, it doesn't have that same meaning. I understood what he was saying, but I was still saying that's maybe not a word. But where do we put the blame for that when we have made that word fashionable in all of our rap records?
well, you know what?
That's always going to be a question there.
It's always going to be a question, but
Hmm.
we don't control the narrative anymore like we used to. So now that's the
Hmm.
problem. So you're gonna have
Hmm.
to combat that because what they're doing is they're exporting a lot of dysfunction out of our community. But a lot of the Africans, excuse me, Brazilians and Africans too, they take the good part, like the Martin Luther King, the Malcolm X, the civil rights movement. They identify with a lot of the old school 80s and 90s R&B. Yeah, they listen to some of the new stuff, but a lot of the old stuff is where they identify with music because they don't have that sound. So to them, it resonates with them. And I was telling a woman down there, I said, it's your melanin in your skin. I said, even though we're from different countries, I said, we still vibrate on the same frequency. That's why you are so in tune with our music because we're the same people. And it went over her head, but I couldn't get deep. So I went back and started drinking my Caprina. I mean, that's all I could do.
Eric, you have no idea of the depth of what you just said because man, I can never have a shortage of stuff to write about. I could I've said this several times. With all the material that's out here, I could have 15 blogs and still there wouldn't be enough because I could focus on so many different topics. But talking about the music, man, Black American music means so much to them. It's like, okay, there was a time in the mid 70s where, and I know some of these people, where they were importing black exploitation films, American soul and funk, and they were just losing. There's a scene in City of God where they didn't talk about it, but you saw them having this dance and they were playing these Black American songs. There's a whole history behind that where Brazil's national sound, similar to jazz and blues for us, is what they call the samba there. So it has a long history of black music that started with the samba like back in the 1920s. And but when they heard R&B, when they heard funk, it brought a level of consciousness to them that they really couldn't find in samba. So you had purists who were going back and forth at each other because Brazilians politicians, they were against what they saw as American imperialism coming in Brazil with the American films, the rock and roll. Then you had the black music. Like, we don't want that here. But then it appealed so much to black Brazilians that they couldn't shut it down. They were bootlegging this stuff into the country. They could watch films like, Superfly. They could watch films like The Mac. They could watch Cooley High. And they were watching all of these films and they were picking up on this vibe. But what separated the feeling that they get with R&B versus samba is that it gave them a root in, you mean it's cool to be black? So then they started having these black dances. They started emulating, they started mixing samba with some soul and funk and coming up with this new sound. So African Americans, we do have to understand that our influence is so global. Now, the other thing I want to mention about that, coming from the 70s up until now, and I look at it as a good thing, but at what point do we as African Americans look at the images that we're putting out here or we're being programmed to put out and say, look, are these still the images that we want broadcast around the world? Because black Brazilians are now, with BET being global now, the BET Hip Hop Awards, they're
Yes,
nominating artists from other countries now. So
yes,
every year you'll notice that in the BET Awards and the BET Hip Hop Awards, they have sometimes 2, 3, 4 Brazilian artists on there. And my question is this the hip hop that we want representing us around the world? Because I love hip hop from the 80s, 90s, the early parts of the 2000s. But
right.
what's out there now, is that something we want the world to recognize as, oh, these are Black Americans? Like, hip hop doesn't really represent me anymore, at least the stuff that's going commercial.
Right, exactly. And you can see that they don't like some of the stuff they trying to gravitate to because they still have that influence. Like there's a big movement amongst some of the Afro-Brazilian women. All of them think they're Beyonce. And I'm like,
Mm.
okay, because yeah, everybody think they're Beyonce, they Queen Bee and all
Dude,
this other stuff. And I'm like,
dude.
okay, well, it's fine. I'm like, but you're not gonna find Jay-Z thinking you Beyonce. I said that's just something that is entertainment, but to them, it's seriously they internalize it because of the way that they have been programmed to think that they're less than. And when I tell brothers, I was like, yo, the race colorism thing is very powerful. You have to understand you're going into a culture that has never had a civil rights movement. So they're still stuck on race on a subconscious level that they haven't been able to shake or break yet.
Let me touch on that for a minute. Um, okay, first thing I got to speak on is the last point that you made. I want to I want to tweak that just a little bit. Brazil has always had civil rights movement. They've just never been widespread. You go all the way back to the 30s with this organization called the Frente Negra Brasileira. It was the Black Brazilian Front. This goes back to the 30s. They got shut down as a political organization because of that first dictatorship that came in with Getulio Vargas at the time. So out of slavery, Black Brazilians have been organized, and they have just never reached. When we tend to look at movements around the world and compare it to civil rights movement, it never got that big. It never did. You had bases in certain cities around the country, particularly Sao Paulo. It's always been there. But what I'm saying is that the internet in the last 10 to 15 years has brought Black Brazilians forward and advanced their movements in ways that was just not possible in the previous 80 years. That's what I would say. So you
Mm,
had the Frente Negra Brasileira. You had the Movimento Negro Unificado. Some people consider the theater group known as TEN, the Teatro Experimental Negro, the Black Experimental Theater. Some people consider that as part of their movement. The internet has acted to bring them to the future. I'd say they've advanced more in the last 15 years than they did in the previous 80. That's the first thing. Second thing is, you mentioned Beyonce. Man, you don't know how Black Brazilians defend Beyonce. It is absolutely incredible. She was just there, I think, towards it. She was there, I think, right before Christmas or right after Christmas last year. I mean, those people, they lost their mind. When Beyonce was on her tour and she announced, I'm not going to be able to make it to Brazil, people just lost it. She did a show in 2013 or 14 there. They absolutely just worship Beyonce. And funny thing is, every time there's a big Black Brazilian female star, they tag her as the Beyonce Brasileira. They've done
yeah.
it with Isa. They've done it with Anita. I think there was if you remember Beyonce's video, the Single Ladies. Everybody was doing that dance. They was calling this actress Juliana Alves. They were calling her the Brazilian Beyonce. I got an article about this. There's several samba. They call them passistas, the main dancing girls during Carnival. There's been at least 3 or 4 girls from Carnival who they say this is the Beyonce Brasileira. Everybody wants that tag. Nobody's going to be the Queen Bee because Brazil does not have that international center of power, but they all aspire to be Beyonce. That's true.
Yeah, and it's funny because they take it in, but when you ask them and say, okay, well, you see who Beyonce is married to, is that can you see yourself with that? See, when you take it from them
Mm.
taking the image of Beyonce in and internalizing it, then I was like, okay, well, do you want to be with a man that has the same hue? And then that's when they get the puzzle face, and they're like, well, what do you mean? I'm like, because
Hey
Beyonce
man,
is this complexion. Hold on. We talking about race. I'm getting up to it. I say, but then it's like, well, hold up. Yeah, Jay-Z's okay, but then that's when the brainwashing comes. Subconsciously, they looking for somebody a little lighter, maybe a little whiter, or something that gives them social status. And that's what I want you to elaborate on, the cognitive dissonance between the Afro-Brazilian movement, race, and as far as us, because I know a lot
Let
of
me
brothers with chocolate like me, myself, going down there.
listen. That we're not going to chop that up today, but I will just introduce the topic, okay?
Hey,
Because
look, I told you, I'm ready for you.
uh-uh. We doing a series. We gonna stay on point. We ain't
Okay,
about
all
to get
right.
off into that, but I'm gonna tell you. I'm gonna just make one point for you, okay? It's so fascinating to me because for many years I couldn't figure it out. It wasn't until I stepped back and people started introducing me to some of the stuff that was going on. I used to be part of this. It was called Homens Pretos. It was a group of WhatsApp Black Brazilian brothers. Man, these was the most radical Black Brazilian men I had ever met, because we have to understand politically, we always have people who are mainstream activists, people who are more in the center. They're not radical.
Right.
You got hardcore Black folks who are extremely radical. Most of the people that you're going to find in Brazil's modern day movimento negro, their Black movement, they're not radical Negroes. They're Black people. I would compare them to where SNCC and SCLC and Martin Luther King, that whole movement was coming out of. This group
Mm,
of brothers that I knew, dude, they would have fit in with the Nation of Islam. I don't know what happened to them. Their group disintegrated or whatever, but they put me into the vibe of what the people is talking about there. And this is what, when we're talking about the manosphere these days, I didn't imagine this until these brothers brought this to me. It was like, dude, Black women here have started this argument that says what's called the solidão da mulher negra, which means the loneliness of the Black woman. Black women for years they brought this to the front. It made like mainstream press what they call the loneliness of the Black women, and they were pointing the finger at Black men and says it's because of you Black men, y'all will just stampede over us to get to the white girls. And they made a movement out of that. It was huge. But this is what I discovered: the same thing that Black American men are saying. A lot of when you go and read the comments that people are making on Instagram and Facebook, before that, there was a social network called Coochie or Coochie. And Black men have been saying this for years. They say, look, it's not just us. All of us have been brainwashed to appreciate white beauty. So what they said was, it was like, look, Black women here will take any old dusty white boy if he's a gringo, if he's from another country. And you see it. If you go to a beach in Rio, you're going to see some of the most beautiful Black women, and they'll be with the most basic looking European white men that you ever seen. But what they're saying is that if the Black woman wants a Black man, he's got to be Michael B. Jordan. There's this rapper from Bahia. His name is Baku Exu do Blues. That's what he calls himself. If you look at that brother, I mean, he's a handsome brother. He's got muscles. He's a rapper. He's handsome. Every woman wants that man. So it's like, if you can't have him, okay, well, I'll settle for the white boy. And I'm not saying all of them are doing this, but this is the feeling that I'm getting from people. There's a young rapper. Her name is MC Sophia. And she wrote a song about this. It was just like, all of these Black rappers are exalting Blackness. Oh, the love, the adoration of Black people, Black women, and then be the main one with the white girls. So what I'm saying is, for years, Black women made an issue out of this, saying it's Black men who are stampeding over us to get the white girls. But nobody was saying nothing about when Black women did it also. So Black Brazilians, until they deal with this issue of this adoration of whiteness, they not going to go nowhere, honestly.
mm, mm. Now that sounds like a trope that most of the people that are watching this stream can relate to, because
hmm
we see the same exact type of behavior being displayed here. So, I guess my point is
Thank you.
is that I don't want guys to think that it's all love there, and it's not all of them. But you're gonna have to do some things that really require you to be in the culture to get what you're looking for. Because,
Listen,
like you said, in the last 10 years, things have changed. And really, for us in the last 3 years, I don't know what has happened. I was just down in Brazil in the end of February, and I'm like, whoa, this whole other movement has kind of taken hold and has kind of
hmm
subplaced the actual Afro-Brazilian movement. Now it's on the forefront, and I'm starting to hear Afro-Brazilian women talking about they don't need their man. And I'm like, wait a minute, how did you get here? You're not even together first. Now you saying you don't need them. I said, and that sounds like a trope that has been
It's
reverberated in our community, and now you're starting to see it in their community.
Man, you know what? What's crazy? And I mentioned this, and I said at the beginning how I changed my blog from Black Women of Brazil to Black Brazil Today. This was one of the main reasons I had to do that, because all the while I was there, my focus was on race. I was focusing on race. Race was everything. So I didn't see what was going on right in my face, because I have a lot of Black female friends in Sao Paulo, and I didn't see it as a problem initially. I'm like, they were all feminists. They were all leftists. They were all feminists. Some of them were lesbians. And because I'm so focused on race, I didn't see how the movement was starting to get all mixed up. Like I said this before, if you follow some of the top Black Brazilian media outlets in Brazil, you're going to find that they all push all three agendas at the same time. They're pushing the Black agenda, the feminist agenda, and the LGBT agenda. They're all mixed together. I've had too many African American brothers. There's a brother that I'm going to talk to. He lives in Georgia, and he just told me about this. He's like, Mark, when they invite me to WhatsApp groups in Brazil, and it's Black people, he says, I can't participate if they have LGBT men in there, because it's going to be just a huge clash in there. And so this is what I'm saying. And it's not just me. When this hit me in the face, it all of a sudden it started making sense, because, Angela Davis has been visiting Brazil for years now. I would say decades. She's had links with Black Brazil for a long time. I
A
couldn't
long
figure it out.
time.
I'm like, yeah, I'm like, what's going on with Angela Davis? But now I understand. Angela Davis is an extreme leftist. She's a communist. She's a lesbian. So this is what they're pushing on African Americans in the United States. So of course they're going to take it overseas now. You talk to Black Brazilians about this, and they're going to be like, you're phobic this, you're phobic that. And it's like, it's hard to have this conversation, because I can't find many. I talked about the WhatsApp group of radical Black men that I knew in Brazil. I can't find many brothers like that. Most of the Black men you meet, if they're involved in the Movimento Negro, they're not going to have any pushback. They're not going to have any problem with these three movements mixed together. If you want to hear somebody talk about how this may not be a good idea, you have to go to a conservative Black Brazilian man like Paulo Cruz. But that's a whole nother story.
Yeah, that's a whole nother story. But the importance of it is that you as an
hmm
American, if you don't have any of this background,
hmm
and you're thinking that
hmm
it's a one
You're
way
going to be
because of what,
unprepared. You're going to be
yeah,
unprepared.
yeah. And see, because what's happening now is you have a lot of people on YouTube that are putting out information, and they're just putting out a very small snippet of what actually is
hmm
going on. And you say, okay, I'm going to Brazil because the women are beautiful. Okay, yeah, but do you understand the women that you want might not want you? Do you understand that you're going to have to distinguish yourself as an American, because if they don't, they're going to view you as a Afro-Brazilian. And if you're a certain complexion, you're going to get that same treatment until they know that you're an American. And it's happened. Like I said, my man Dennis Jean-Pierre will tell you plenty of times he's had it happen to him. So I want brothers to understand Brazil is a beautiful place, but don't go down there with rose-colored glasses and then get your feelings hurt, because there's things that are going on in that country that where you might not get
hmm
what you're looking for. So be prepared.
Listen, let me put it this way, because this is a conversation that I say in the last 2 years, I'm starting to have move my conversation and discussions beyond the race issue, because there's so much more. When you think about what the left is throwing at us, they throw everything at us and hope something just sticks on the wall. That's what they're doing. So what I would advise to brothers, anybody who's going to Brazil, because I'm seeing there's basically four types of people that's going to Brazil if we're talking about Black Americans. You're a Black American who works for a multinational company. They transfer you to Brazil because they got a branch in Brazil. You're a person who's just into the culture. You want to go and, like, that's what got me. I didn't go down to Brazil looking specifically for a woman. I went because I was amazed at the historical complexities and the comparisons between us and them. Then you got brothers who down there who just trying to get a one-nighter, who just want to be on, that type of tourism. Then you got our brothers who really looking for that one. So what I'm saying is, and I've had several Brazilian guys, I'm going to do a video about this one day. I had a Brazilian guy say to me, like, look, what you Americans don't understand is that when you come down here, when you get access to the women here, you getting low hanging fruit. You're not gonna come down here and think you're gonna
Oh,
find the woman
say
of
it
your
again.
dreams on the streets.
Say
You're
it
not gonna
again.
find that.
Hold on.
Listen,
Say it
you
again. Say it again.
you you're not gonna get on the plane and fly to Brazil and think you're gonna just find a woman of your dreams just walking down the street. Okay. I've seen too many brothers go down there. They get hooked up with some person or another guy, like, look, you come over here, we got a whole house full of women. You can just come over here and do whatever you want. Low hanging fruit. The girls who's going to be of value, who's going to make a good wife for you, that's going to be a good partner for you, you're not going to find them on the first day that you're there, and you're probably not going to find them on the streets. These are family girls. If you're running into girls in the club, you're running into girls, and there's spots all over Rio and Sao Paulo where somebody can take you if you want to have a good time. But don't get it twisted. Don't think you're going to find a girl that's for having a good time and think that's the one you're going to be married to. There's another point to this. You could look exactly the way that you look. You could look exactly like a Brazilian guy looks, just being black or whatever. But you got an edge because you're an American. Now, how do you know if that girl is into you because of who you are or because you are an American? There is a whole documentary, and this was specifically speaking about Europe, but there's a whole documentary that came out, I don't know, I forget, 2009 maybe, and he talked about European white men coming to Brazil with these promises of, hey, baby, come with me. I'm going to take you back to my country. You're going to have a lap of luxury and you're going to live well and you ain't never going to have to work. They get over there and get turned into prostitutes. So what I'm saying is that you're not going to find a woman of your dreams just catching a bus in Sao Paulo. It's not going to happen. Family girls are not available like that.
So what you're saying is that there's a lot of cap going on with these YouTubers and what's going on in Brazil.
Hey, man, if you're going down there to get off, seriously, dude, I'm going to just say sex tourism, prostitution is off the chain. If you look on Instagram, if you look in the WhatsApp groups, I got a man down in, one of my boys down in Minas Gerais, and he sends me these videos all the time. It will blow you away. It's like Instagram, and they have Tinder there, they have OnlyFans there, they have a Brazilian style of OnlyFans.
Right.
Women is literally selling themselves down there. So you need to be careful with what you're dealing with. This is why I tell people, don't go to Brazil just looking for the women. You need to find out what's going on socially, politically, economically. What is the day-to-day life of a Brazilian woman? You need to know that before you think you're going to just go down there and find wife material.
Man, look here. Hey, look here. Hold on. That statement that you just said, that's for the haters. That's for the haters that say that we hating and we de-policing. And I'm telling them, look, we trying to tell you the truth. We're not trying to sugarcoat it. Things have changed.
Look,
if you say you're looking for a wife, then this is the things that you need to know. But they don't want to hear that.
hey, man, there was a video I saw, and don't ask me to name it because I only watched it once, but there was these two black American men, and they were discussing this. They saw exactly what I saw. They saw what other men are talking about. Brazilian men's like, dang, y'all Americans are so stupid. And they was just talking back and forth. He was like, man, I went to Bahia. And he says, because, okay, we know that one of the main things about feminism, it says, hey, stop policing our sexuality. So he was like, they was going to this, he was describing this situation with one of the girls he took to this chic restaurant in Bahia. And she went there dressed like she was a prostitute. I mean, she just had everything hanging out. And they were the only black people in this restaurant, but she thought like, don't be telling me what to wear. So it's like, I remember what Bahia was in the first 7 to 8 years that I went there. But it's like things are international now with the dating sites that you have, the dating apps that you have. How do you know that this girl is into you because of you or because of your money? Okay. Here's another thing. I've had this experience over and over. I used to teach English in Brazil. You have to give them examples. You have to talk to them all the time because they swear up and down every American is rich. They really think that. I've met middle-class white Brazilians. And I never forget the discussion. I wish I could have taped it. This dude was living well in Sao Paulo. He was living in a upper middle-class apartment. And his dream was to live in Miami. Like, oh, my God, in America. And I'm just like, dude, you got a good life here. Why do you want to go to the States? I says, do you know what a comfortable middle-class living is in the United States? all he had was what he saw in the films and in the television shows, because American media dominates down there. They have their own
Yeah.
media, but they import the movies and the television series, and they live through those. Like, I got to get to America, and they think all of us are rich. It's like, no, that's not what it is.
Right, right. Well, America is great at advertising to get you here. But once they got you here and they start to realize, like, yo, it's not what I
Hmm.
thought it was. But we try to tell them, like, why do you want to come
Right.
to America? Oh, because of the movies and all the other stuff. Well, why do you want to come to Brazil? Because we're trying to escape what's
Hmm.
really going on in America. I said, they're not going to show you that, but you don't believe what we tell you. So it's like, okay, you leave and you want to come to Brazil, or you want to come to South Africa, you want to come to Thailand, but America is where everybody wants to be. I say, well, if we're trying to leave, then that should tell you something. But you're so caught up in the culture and in the advertisement, then you want to jump on and go to America. But like I said, I had a conversation with a woman in South
And see,
Africa.
see what's funny about that
Same
is,
thing.
you don't know how many people I've met in Brazil who go to the States. They might stay on vacation, they might stay for an extended period, and then they'll see something in the United States, and it just hit them like, I thought this only happened in Brazil. Something negative will happen to them, something that's just unexpected, and they're shocked. They think America is just like this perfect country or something, and I'm just like, listen, to tell you the truth, I left the United States in 2012 because I just felt like, you know, America is not going to be on top forever. And I'm just trying to tell people in the United States, like, look, if you plan well, I mean, we all want to get to millionaire status, but do you know, if you settle in another country with, say, $250,000, $300,000, you're an instant millionaire in other countries. So you need to be thinking about this. You could live in Panama. When I went to Uruguay, $1 American was worth, I think it was 16 pesos at the time.
Mhm.
We need to. I talk about Brazil not only to talk, educate Americans about Black Brazil, but I'm also just giving people the idea. Look, you don't have to live and retire in the United States. That's something to think
Right.
about.
Right. And that's what
Mhm.
the Black travel male movement was about, is that, look, yo,
Mhm.
frustrated was what frustrated was. Charles Tyler came along and was showing brothers, hey, you don't have to live in the matrix. Get your money up, build this expat community, and you can live a better life overseas. But what it's come to now is
Mhm.
that it's just about the women. I was like, but you got to understand, it's more than just the women. It's the culture. The women are just a part of it. So make sure when you're making these life-changing
Mhm.
decisions, don't go just for the women, because you may end up making a decision that you're going to regret. And when you try to give that information, guys kind of push back on it because they don't understand the circumstances of where they're trying to get to. So that's why people like yourself are so important, and what you have to put, I mean, what you put out is so paramount, because we want brothers to make the best decisions. We're not hating. We just want to make sure that you know. And people like yourself, man, you got so much knowledge. Just from we were talking the other night, it was like, it was crazy. I mean, I felt like I was at a lecture.
Mhm.
Take notes and stuff.
Listen, I'm on. Listen, that's definitely a topic we have to explore. But I will say this: you don't have to be a multimillionaire as an American to live well in Brazil. And I lived in the most populated, most important city in the country. I lived in Sao Paulo. Sao Paulo, I think Sao Paulo is more important to Brazil's economy than maybe New York is to the U.S. I might be wrong about that, but it is the economic engine. And I always said I never wanted to live in an enormous city, and here I lived in a city that had 12 million people. What I'm saying is that when I would go to Rio, when I was in Bahia, when I was in Sao Paulo, Bahia, Rio, and Sao Paulo, I went to smaller cities while I was there. If you can deal with a slower lifestyle that's just not crazy, just chaotic, there's a lot of little cities you can settle in Brazil and just live out your time. I don't plan on wanting to live in another huge city. I wouldn't mind being half, 30 minutes or 45 minutes away from the city, but living in Sao Paulo says this is not it for me. I don't want to live in another large city.
Right. Yes. Yes. Sao Paulo is a whole lot. A whole lot. That was my first time being there earlier this year, and it was like we were staying in the Paulista area,
Say that again.
and
Yeah.
yeah, and just being in the Paulista
Mhm.
area was like,
Okay.
wow, wow, because now you're starting to see
Yeah.
big city,
Yeah.
and you're right. I do think that Sao Paulo is more important, because what I like to look at, are what I call money flights. Those are flights between big cities. So Sao Paulo to New York, you got a straight shot. Sao Paulo to Johannesburg.
Right.
Johannesburg is the money for South Africa. You have Sao Paulo to Medellin, Sao Paulo to Miami. So when you start talking about that, and the crazy part is that's where the money part of Brazil is at. So it's a different culture. But for somebody like myself, I can navigate it. But I'm like you, I don't want to live someplace where it's too big. But as long as I have access to it, I'm fine there. But a lot of brothers, they prefer Rio because of the beach,
Well,
or Salvador because of the beach.
Well, I'm saying, if you travel, the other thing you should notice about Brazil, and this is, I gave you the positive part, and I'm going to give you maybe not such a positive part. The population of Brazil is not, when you look at a map and you look at the red zones, they always have dots of where the largest populations are. Most of the Brazilian population is located on the coast. So when you go into the interior of those states that's located off the Atlantic Ocean, it's going to be less populated. So what I'm saying is there are plenty of places for you to live, but the downside of that is you're not going to have the resources that you're going to need. Some years ago, they had this medical program called Mais Médicos. That's more doctors. They knew that Brazilian cities don't have the same amount of doctors per capita as other major countries around the world. So they started bringing in doctors from places like Cuba. Because when you go into the interior of these states, they don't have as many doctors, they don't have as many hospitals. If you got a major life-threatening surgery that you need, they're going to have to ship you 3 hours to Rio, Sao Paulo, Belo Horizonte, Salvador, those types of cities. So there is a flip side. Like I said, I would live in a city that was big enough, but maybe 30 to 45 minutes away from a major city. That's how I would do it.
And see, that's very good to know. But most guys are going to migrate to the bigger cities anyway because they're more modern, and it'll be less of an adjustment from them going from the States to there. As far as
Yeah,
Salvador,
I agree. That's true.
the malls, the roads, and all the other stuff, and even Belo Horizonte. I had a chance to go up there in 2020, and I was actually surprised at how well constructed it was. But like when we were there, people would ask us,
I
why
love
did we
that
come
city.
here? Yeah. They would ask us why did we come to Belo Horizonte? And I was like, because we wanted to experience something else.
Uh,
And the funny
yeah,
thing is,
I love
quick,
Belo Horizonte.
quick story. Me and my man, we were in the mall, and we were in one of the stores, and they were playing, a Cardi B song. So the curse words came on, and we looked at each other, but nobody else was
Yeah,
phased because they didn't know the meaning of it. But for
because they
us, we were
don't
just,
under what they were saying, right?
no, they're
Yeah.
singing along. But we looked at each other like they playing that, and I'm like, but they don't understand the context of the song. They just hear it, so to them it's just like a regular song, and I just found it so odd, but it's funny.
Well, Eric, let me tell you this right here. Like I said, we all over the place,
Okay,
but
well,
you bring up something, I got to comment. Listen, man, Eric, seriously, if you don't know what they're talking about in some of those funk songs, Brazilians are accustomed to explicit lyrics because some of them lyrics is like, oh my God. I remember I first heard a funk song, and because they use so much slang, it's like, what they call gíria. And
uh,
I didn't understand a lot of the lyrics. And, I took a lyric sheet and I started reading these lyrics to my girlfriend at the time. She was like, oh my God, Mark, what are you saying? It's like, don't think that Cardi B and Meg the Stallion and what's her name?
yeah,
Nicki Minaj, don't think that's
go,
just American. Don't think that's just
Gorilla.
American. Funk has some of the most explicit lyrics you're gonna hear. The point is, the same thing you just said about hearing that Cardi B song and that wherever you was at,
Uh-huh.
you're gonna hear that in any funk song. I mean, there's a whole list of funk songs, and it's just like how people used to say in the United States. There used to be this song. I remember when I used to hang out in the clubs and the song would come on. There's some hoes in this house, and all
Yeah,
the
yeah,
women would get on the dance floor. People looking like,
yeah.
"Why are you dancing to that?" And they'd be like, "Well, he ain't talking about me." It's the same thing with the funk, and the women started getting into the funk, and now they're doing explicit lyrics like, "Hey, I want to talk about what you gonna do for me." And it's don't think you're going to Brazil and they ain't got the same thing. It's the same thing.
Well, okay. Look. I know your time is limited, and I know we could talk all night, but I do want to give a couple brothers
That's
a
right.
chance to talk to you because a lot of people have been wanting to ask you questions. And like I said, this is
Okay,
your
let's do
first
it.
time actually streaming. So I'm going to put the link.
Mhm.
If Pablo and Dennis want to come up, and then we have a couple other guys in the back, let them ask you a couple of questions. And then, we're going to sign off because I know your time is limited. And I know you ready for the next stream that we're going to be doing. So,
Oh yeah, no doubt, no doubt.
so hold on, I'm gonna put
This
the
is
link
just the
up in.
beginning.
This is just the beginning.
Okay.
Let me see. I'm gonna add you to the scene, and I'm gonna put the link up for anybody that wants to jump on and ask. Do what now? Gotcha. So I'm gonna go ahead and switch up. All right. So this is my man G. This the man that we went to Belo Horizonte together. So that story I just told you, this is the guy that I was with, man.
Okay.
G. Meet
Yeah.
BBT.
Okay.
Hey,
That's
man,
right.
how you doing, Mr. BBT? It's an honor, brother. Big honor.
Hey man, good to hear from you. What you got on your mind, man?
The story that he says about Bello, we talked to an older brother that's what made us go to Bello, because we knew that it was a lot of migrants coming to Rio, because it was business. The tourist was there, but the man he gave us some game talking about, if you really don't get women down here, if you really want a woman, you got to go up north. And I want to know, do you agree with that? Because when we went up north, we went into this
BH
meat
Express.
market. Yeah. And the women were very different. They were more wholesome. You could tell that they wasn't on that prowl like the Rio women. And what I loved about Bello, the taxi driver said, I'm from San Francisco. So I was like, man, this reminds me of San Francisco with all the hills and stuff and the transportation. He said, yeah, we call Bello baby San Francisco.
Uh-oh.
But just no, but just just asking you, did you see the difference between the Bello females and the females, in Rio? Were they different? Was the old man telling us what was up or what?
Hey man, I'm gonna say it like this. In some ways, when you talk about Rio and Sao Paulo, that you're talking about the southeast of the country. To me, Brazil is the axis that you have: Los Angeles, Chicago, New York. In Brazil, to me, is kind of like Rio, Sao Paulo, and Belo Horizonte. Okay, this is my opinion. Even if you go to a place like Salvador, okay, Salvador has changed a lot from when I first started going to Salvador. I mean, the internet, social networks, and dating apps, all of that has changed so much. If you're looking for the woman that might click with you, it's not even in a major city in the northeast. I would say you go to the interior of those states. If you go into the interior of Bahia, you're gonna have calmer women, people who are not so much into the hustle and bustle that we into. When I used to visit in Bahia, I used to hang out in cities like Ilhéus and Itabuna, Cachoeirinha. Hang out in some of those cities. You have to get away from the metropolitan areas. That's what I would tell you. I love Belo Horizonte, but Belo Horizonte is part of that three-part axis. If you go into the large metropolitan cities, good luck, bruh.
Right. No, I feel you on that, because we were out
Yeah.
walking, and this was like in the middle of the pandemic. And man,
Okay.
some of those LGBT cats dudes was like, hey, they walked up on us and we was talking to a lawyer, and one of the little dudes came up to me and Ian said, yeah, that's my man over there. So my boy looked at him like, man, I don't want you saying nothing like that, but I guess it was the American and the allure, you know what I'm saying? It was more like, damn, I got to protect what I have.
Right. Oh, wait a minute. He dropped off. Hold on for a second.
Okay.
Dennis, what's up, man? Let's see. Dennis, let me see. Are you muted? Let me check. See if you're not muted.
Yeah, he's asking if you can hear him.
Is he muted? Can you hear us, Dennis?
Yeah.
Okay, there we go. All right. We can't hear you. Hold on. We lost we lost BB and T. But I know you anxious to ask him some questions. Hold on for a second. Let me hit him with the text. But is there anything that he said that kind of resonates with what your experiences have been in Brazil?
Well, I watched a few of his videos. I wanted to ask him about the racism in Brazil, and
Okay.
because I made a live stream a couple months back about racism in Brazil, and some of my subscribers they were not satisfied with the live stream, talking about oh, you capping about the racism in Brazil and this and that. It's the racism is horrible in Brazil, and I'm trying to explain to them, I've never experienced any racism personally. Of course, I know it exists there. I know if
Right.
you ask Black Brazilians about the racism, they'll give you a totally different story. But I've never experienced any overt racism in Brazil.
Right.
So,
And
so I want to ask him his perspective on that.
well, hopefully he'll get his signal to come back up. But in response to what you were saying, the funny thing is, like he said when they can identify you as an American, then it seems like that the sentiment changes. So even for us, you don't, like I know you and I have talked, and you'll say, yeah, until they think I'm a Brazilian, until I open my mouth and they find I'm American, and things change, like he was saying before. So maybe that's because of that you're an American, even though you could pass as Brazilian, speak the language and whatnot, you know.
Because when I'm down there, right, and the people that don't suspect I'm American, I'm like, yeah, I'm blending in. Because check this out, when I go to Manaus, nobody suspects that I'm American. They think that I'm either from Rio, from Bahia, or from Haiti. One of the three. Nobody ever says
That's
American.
interesting.
So how long does it take for them to actually make that make that distinction that, okay, wait a minute, you're not from the places that we think you are, you're an American, or do you have to tell them?
Well, let me tell you a story. I was in Manaus in an Uber, and I was talking with the driver in Portuguese. A friend of mine from the United States called me on my phone, and so I started speaking in English. That driver turned around and looked at me like he saw a ghost.
Wow.
He's like, "You're not Brazilian?" I said, "No, I'm American." He's like, "No, son." I'm like, "Wow." I'm like, yeah, man. At that point, I was like, "Yeah, I think I'm blending in a little bit down here, just a little bit."
Well, I mean,
Was he pleasantly surprised, or
He
he
was.
just never?
He was pleasantly
man.
surprised.
Well, you know what? That and like I was trying to tell Cass, I said, we want you to just know what you're getting into. We don't want you just to think that you're gonna go down there, like you said, and find the woman of your dreams. It's like it's
Yeah, it's not like, and I'm glad y'all touched on that, because it's like I try to tell guys, you come down to Copacabana and you meet an attractive woman, and you think that you the man, your ego gets involved because this woman is brushing your ego. You need to fall back a little bit, man, because it's probably not what you think. Most likely she's working.
Oh, of course, she's a woman of leisure. That's the term we like to use here over at BMO, a woman of leisure. So don't nobody get butt hurt. But
Well,
But
you got to remember, even the ones that's really not into that leisure lifestyle, when they find out, well, at least my experience, when they find out that you are American, they turn that, hey, I still need something, help me out. So
yeah,
they may not be so overbearing with it, but I met this chick, and she was Miss the soccer team. She was Miss Flamingo in 2020 something. I don't want to say what the exact date is, and she was an instructor, a working out instructor. And she was like, "Look, I'm not in the game, but I'm in the game."
well,
right.
I mean, yeah, either you in the game or you not in the game. There ain't no it ends and the buts.
Yeah, you know that, but that's what she was trying to tell me to ease it over.
Right.
Yeah. And I tell guys, if you meet a girl down in Zona Sul, if she's very attractive, most likely she's working part-time, full-time, or sometime.
Yeah, that's a
Hey,
good
it's a
way to
lot of
put
that
it.
sometime down there for real. It's a lot of that sometime.
If she meet a
Yeah.
dude, if she meet a dude, she may not be a 10 toes to the flow, working girl.
Right.
But if she meet the right dude with the right swag, he come with the right money, she going.
Hold on, Dennis. Back up. So what you're saying is, I'm gonna get this on record. What you're saying is that even if they working, they choosing to.
Yes, and that's where the blurred lines comes. You know what I'm saying? This is where you get the blurred lines. So I tend to not like to blur the lines between, you know, a regular girl and the working girl, because that's when stuff gets confused. You know what I'm saying? I'm like, listen, you say you like me, but I'm not gonna pay you every time I see your face, okay?
Exactly. So it's kind of like you trying to see if there's at least with an option to buy. I'm like, no, that's not how it works here. That's not what we doing. Now you might well go get a European. You can do that thing, but we ain't doing no lease option here.
Right.
So I'm just saying.
Hey, what did Charles say? Charles, he's in the chat. He called them timeshare Tiffany's.
Oh.
Right.
Man, that's funny. But you know what? And my man right here, Global Paper, said if you can't speak Portuguese at a high level, you're never dating in Brazil. Language is everything.
Me and him talk every once in a while. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, my fault. Global Paper, 100% correct. And like I said, guys think that we're hating on them. I'm like, I'm not hating on you. I'm telling you, if you really are looking for a wife, a different life, there's things that you need to do, and you're not going to be able to just show up, get on the plane, show up in Copacabana, and you're going to find the woman of your dreams. But that's what you're being sold. So we're here to show you, like, yo, that's not what it is. This is what you're being sold, but we're trying to give you a reality. And I don't know, maybe his internet went down. I hate that because I really wanted you to have a conversation with him. I just tried to text him. I don't know if he had a power outage or his battery was off or he hasn't responded yet, but I am kind of disappointed that we couldn't finish this conversation. But we are going to do a couple of series on this because this is the first time that he's actually live streamed. And like I said, you know, you watch his videos. He has a lot of information. So I don't want guys to just think, oh, hold on for a second. Let's see. Let me hit him. Let me hit him back. See if we can get back on. See if we can get him back.
I never knew what the brother looked like until today.
Well, see, and that's the other thing. He doesn't. He's done little videos, but he's never really done a live stream. And we tried to do a dual live stream. I've been trying to do a live stream with him since last year, but our schedules were just so we never could meet up. So now he's had some free time, and we're able to put this together. Hold on, let me get him to come back in and see if we can't reestablish it. But I really do think, let's see, I really do think that he has a lot of information to put out. And I just love some of the subjects that he touches on, because it's stuff that we have been talking about behind the scene amongst ourselves as we travel and all this other stuff. And it's like, yo, this is the real deal. You know, you hopping on a plane trying to run down here and thinking you're going to find this and that. But like he's telling you, if you're looking for a real wife, then you're going to have to go away from the place, you know. And there are places like that.
I remember the brother was talking about he loved Belo Horizonte. Like, Belo Horizonte has a lot of nice looking women. Because y'all been there, right? You and
Yeah. Me and G been there.
Yeah. So if you looking for, they say if you're looking for a wife, go to Minas Gerais. If you meet a family woman if you meet a good girl that comes from a family with a little bit of paper, you have to be able to speak Portuguese. I mean, there's no way. There's really no way around that.
Okay. Okay, we got him back.
Welcome back.
Mark, can you hear us? Look like he froze a little bit. Like his screen froze. Okay, hold on. We're gonna drop him back down here for a second. But yeah, like you said, you gotta have you're gonna have to have some type of Portuguese under your belt, because they're going to want to be able to talk to you and ask you questions.
Right.
Yeah, because
Because
they're still social. They still have that social network,
yes.
and
Well,
people
don't you got to
don't.
go through the dads and the mom? You got to go through that protocol if you even worthy enough to have their daughter or their niece. You know what I mean?
Okay,
Yep.
there we go. We can hear you now.
All right, he's back.
Dang, can you see? Okay, man,
Yeah, yeah.
dog, man, y'all got to talking, and I swear I was talking for like 5 minutes, and y'all kept talking. I'm like, these brothers cannot hear me.
No, they can't. We couldn't. But okay, we got you
didn't,
back now.
so you didn't see my image, or you couldn't hear me? Okay,
Nope. No,
We didn't
no.
see-
okay, so you can.
So, okay, so
What about
Dennis wants
now?
to ask you a question.
What's going on,
Okay,
man?
look, wait. I heard your question, but I just couldn't respond because y'all couldn't hear me.
Okay.
Can you
Okay.
hear me now?
Yes,
Yeah.
we can.
Y'all can hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, look, let me tell you this, because he asked a question about this racism thing. You know, that's what I talk about. The funny thing about Brazil is that as much as I talk about racism myself as an American, I never felt that. I don't know if it's because of my status as an American living in Brazil, because people were fascinated, like, dude, you come from the States. Why are you in Brazil? So I talked about this all the time. I talk about how much Brazilians like to call black people monkeys. You know, they be offering people bananas. I mean, just the funny thing about what I've seen, what I have really witnessed, is this change in the demeanor of the black Brazilian. It used to be, you can contrast what you see with how they react and how they're raised to react to racism. Whereas in the United States, somebody come at you wrong, it's like, in Brazil,
We with it.
I would see I would see brothers playing soccer, and somebody would call him a monkey on the field, and you see him on the sideline crying, right?
Right.
But I'm telling you, particularly the last decade, black Brazilians then stood up. I have to say the charge was really led by the women, but all the black Brazilians have changed in this last decade and a half. They're pushing back. They setting up their own stuff. They got their own platforms. The racism is still there because they talk about it every day. It's amazing the stuff that white Brazilians do and get away with it. Like snatching people's hats off their head, or spitting on somebody's foot. It's absurd. Man, some of the videos that I've seen, there was this one video with this white woman, and she's a big fat white woman on the beach in Rio, and she just went. There was this black woman, real pretty girl, but she was with this white guy on the beach. It's just like, you just mad because you a mulatto and you got bad hair. Next time you come back here, you need to be born white. And I'm saying, a black woman, a black American woman would have been all up in. Black woman would have went off on her. I mean, this chick, she started crying. What I'm saying is the disposition of black Brazilians is in a transition right now. They really getting to the point where you step to them wrong, it's gonna be something. They ain't got as they don't push back as hard as black Americans do, but I'm telling you, they are getting there. So what my bottom point is, I have never personally experienced any racism, even though I talk about it all the time. I have to represent what it is that the people are saying, and the people talk about this every single day. It's almost to the point where people have asked for years, racism is worse in Brazil or the United States. And I says, to me, that's not the right question to ask. The right question to ask is, which racism is more effective in keeping black people in their place? And that's Brazil, hands down.
Absolutely. I wanted to touch on something. A friend of mine, his name is HL. This happened a couple years ago at the Hilton in Copacabana on New Year's.
Yeah.
And
Pretty famous.
it was in the lobby, and this white couple, was being disrespectful towards him in the
You
lobby.
know that guy?
Yeah,
You know that guy?
Yeah, I know.
Oh,
That's my
dog.
and
Okay.
and I was there at the party, and this white couple was giving them problem down in the lobby at the front counter. So he reaches over and knocks the white dude out,
Yeah.
smooth out
Yeah.
in the lobby.
Yeah. That made NPR news.
Yeah, and so he
Yeah.
was like a local hero amongst the black people in Rio because
Oh, yeah.
after they saw
Yeah.
that.
Uh-huh. So I'm saying the atmosphere of race relations in Brazil, dude, I'm telling you, 20 years ago, when I first started going to Brazil, 24 years ago, the average black Brazilian would deny, oh no, we don't have no racism down here. What are you talking about? My best friend is white, that type of thing. dude, they have done a complete 180 down there. And this is something that since I've been following this since the year 2000, I've seen this transition. And here's an intriguing topic. I don't know. There's so many to talk about, but a couple of months ago, I did a story where there's this black Brazilian journalist. She's light skinned, but I still consider her black. And people made a big deal when she was wearing braids on the news show that she was on. And in the last decade and a half, you've seen tens of thousands of black Brazilian women transition into wearing their natural hair. And it's a funny dynamic because you got black Brazilian women embracing their natural hair while black American women is majority wearing fake hair. And they got this desire, this daring to wear natural hair because of the Black Power movement in the US. And here we are 50 years later. I don't know if you would call it the majority. I don't know what cities you guys live in, but when you look at black American women in the streets, would you say the majority are wearing their natural hair? Would you say it's straightened, or would you say they're wearing some type of hair, weave or wig? What would you say?
They're not wearing their natural hair for the most part.
No.
Yeah.
They all look alike. In America, they all look alike. They got the little boom bangs and different. The only difference is different color hair. That's it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And that's one of the things. I'm sorry.
No,
that's one of the things that attracted me to the Brazilian black women is that they wear their natural hair, the puffy afros.
Yes.
I love that. The curly afro. I mean, I love that, man. I love it.
Yeah. That's what I'm saying.
But for a long time, they were ashamed of that hairstyle. That's the crazy part.
Wow.
That's the crazy part.
That's where we were 60 years ago.
Mm-hmm. Right. That's why I always say, and I guess you put it in the context, is that I said they never went through a civil rights movement that looked like ours, but and didn't have the impact. But what they're going through now is covert, but now it's starting to be overtly put on display. Whereas, like you said before, they were doing it in sales, but now you're starting to see more of it embracing. I'm not Brazilian, I'm Afro-Brazilian. Where they will all say we were all Brazilians at one point in time.
Mm-hmm.
Another
thing.
You know
what? Go ahead. What were you going to say?
No, I was going to ask you another question. I've been to Salvador Bahia a couple times, and one thing I noticed when I was there is that when you see a black couple, you rarely see a black couple with the same complexion.
Oh my God! Didn't we just talk about this, Eric?
Yeah, but that was behind the scene. I want to get you on record.
Eric, didn't we talk about that a few days ago? Let me tell you what I saw.
Okay.
Man, I lived in Sao Paulo for 9 years. This is what I told Eric the other day. Man, okay, first of all, I have had to see, I'm sure you've all heard this idea that Brazil has the largest black population outside of Africa. Okay, I have had to pivot off of that position because there's too many people that are just racially indefinable for you to say that person is solidly black, even considering if they're light skinned and they have Afro features. Okay, I've had to pivot away from that, to be honest about this. The other thing is, when you live in a city like Sao Paulo, when you see the couples in the street, you're going to see majority white on white or white on mixed. Okay. When you see black couples, they're going to be a brown skinned black Brazilian with a light skinned black Brazilian. It's extremely rare to see two brown skinned people just walking down the street in Sao Paulo. When I wanted to see that, I had to go to this event called Feira Preta, where everybody's black. It's like a black expo event. But just walking down the street in Sao Paulo every day, I was like, wow. If you don't count black and mixed race or black and light skin, two different black people of different complexions, you rarely are going to see two clearly black people in Sao Paulo. That was my experience. And so I didn't notice that as much in Salvador because so many more people are of African ancestry there. And for me, I can detect somebody who's black. Okay. So, but the complexion thing, he's pointing on with that. I saw that for years in Sao Paulo.
Also, do they? JB Design says, would you say black Brazilian women in general have adopted American strag culture, or do they behave like the Huxtables? Also, do they just do it for European men or black men too? Bros want to know.
Hey man, okay, that's a very serious question. Okay, what I'm gonna say is, it's frustrating. any Black American who spends time in Brazil, you are going to be frustrated when you deal with how Black Brazilians see this thing. And it's like, you don't, a lot of people reject the influence that African Americans have. And it's just like, look, we got our own culture here. Why do you guys think you have to be the center of Blackness? And I agree with that. But my bottom point is that no matter how much organizing you guys do, no matter how many Black businesses you do, no matter I'm Black and I'm Black and I'm Black and I'm Black and all of that, if y'all can't click, if y'all can't see the value of having Black men and Black women together, all of this is a huge waste of time. They still are enamored with white people. I see it at the root. I saw it. How many times, how many families I've seen in Sao Paulo go from jet black to white or something near white. I see it every day. And it's like, this is not going to work. I mean, you don't want to hear from an American, that's fine. But you have to realize it. And they're starting to catch that now, but I'm just almost wondering, is it too late?
It might be because how we said we like the Brazilian women with the afros, but they're not doing it for the Black men. I don't know where I got this, where I read this from, but I see that the European white men like that because it's a fetish form. So the Brazilian
It is,
women
yeah.
do the
Hmm.
afro for them, not to attract us. It's
Wow.
to have them, the European men, have their fetish with them. And the killing part, I hear all these brutal stories about what they do to them. Send them to their friends, dog them out, and everything else. So they're not doing it for us. They're doing it for what they. What's that word that they say? Better the better the race because you want to lighten the race up
Me,
or whatever.
meio da raça, yeah.
Yeah.
It's tragic, man. It's tragic because it's so hard because it's taken this long for them to come into this consciousness. And then it's difficult because, okay, you're a person with consciousness, but now you can't find a partner who has the same consciousness as you. You would be just shocked to see how many what you would call Afro-Brazilian leaders, and you'll go home and you'll see they got their white partners. It was just like, wow. Me and every African American who goes there notices this. And it's just like, how can y'all not get this?
Right.
Right. It's like that disconnect.
Yeah.
It really is. And I think it's so hard for us not to see it because we're so used to seeing it here. It's like a second sense. It's like we just pick up on it, bam, we see this. Whereas it's their culture and that's how they've been programmed and socialized, and they don't see
Programmed.
and
Programmed.
socialized.
That's exactly the truth. Listen,
Yeah.
I'm gonna say this last thing. I'm gonna say this last thing. We got to save this for another video. But
Okay. All right. Okay.
when I used to teach English, I didn't just teach English classes because the kids, they were teenagers, they were young adults in their 20s, they were people in their 30s and 40s. They all wanted to talk. They wanted to learn what it was different between us. What is it about America? They wanted to know about the Americans. So I would split my class into, let's get the English part out the way so we can talk about stuff that y'all want to talk about. And I would get everything I wanted to know out of these students. I'm like, look, I need to know how many of you guys in this class were told by your parents or your grandparents that you need to get a white partner. And almost every time the whole class raised their hand.
Wow.
So where we tell our kids, bring me home a Black man, bring me home a Black woman, their parents are telling them, it's no use. You're already Black. Don't bring home somebody else Black. That's slightly starting to change now, but that is embedded in the culture. If you meet a woman who has a preference for a Black man, you beat the odds because they've been socialized to say, no, that doesn't matter. And deep down, what that means is, I want something white so I can produce better looking kids. It's
Let
real.
me piggyback off of that. Let me piggyback off of what you just said. This happened to me last year. I was in Fort Lauderdale. I met this Black girl on Tinder. We decided to go to the beach. I took her
On
to the
Tinder.
beach. We said, I met
Did
her
you
on
hear what I
Tinder.
just told you?
What's that?
I told you the dating apps is huge down there. I remember when a
Yeah.
dude, I had this white student and he was telling me about Tinder. I'm like, what is Tinder? Because Tinder came out when I was still down there. But go ahead.
I met the girl on Tinder. I took her to the beach. And I liked her. She was cute. I was vibing with her. And then she asked me out the blue. She asked me, "You look like you date white girls." And I'm like, "What? Like, how could you say that to me? You're Black. I'm taking you out. I'm paying for every damn thing." She's like, "You just look like you date white girls." I'm like, "Oh my goodness!" And that turned me off. That turned me off. I didn't even want to mess with her after that.
Well. But do you understand where she's coming from with that?
I
Let me
understand.
explain. Let me explain that to you. Okay.
Go ahead.
The
Go ahead.
first time I didn't know. It was about 2005. I honestly didn't know that this was such a big thing down there. I had read about it, but it wasn't until it smacked me in the face when I saw it. It was like every black male entertainer, soccer player, rapper, a rapper on black consciousness, politician, senators, judges, doctors, lawyer, all of them, they expect it. There's Man, I read this study and it was about black executives. It was called Executivos Negros. It was a study about the lives of black Brazilian executives because they're only like 1 or 2% of the whole country. Man,
Damn.
out of the 50 black men that he interviewed, 49 of them was married to white women. So they know this. They know this. I remember, what singer was that? It might have been Jairzinho. I can't remember which singer I was looking at. But my first girlfriend there, she was just like, he ain't gonna date no white, and no, he ain't gonna date no black girl. I mean, I know what he's like. They got a sense, and it don't take much because most of them is like, listen, man, this brother did this story. This was back in 2017. He told the story. Look, where I come from in Rio, it's embedded in the culture. We are taught. We, if you want to have a quickie, if you want to spend the night with a girl, you want to do some kissing beneath the bleachers, you do that with your black girl. But when you're going to go public holding hands with a white girl and bring somebody home, you got to have a white girl. He said it flat out. It's not like, damn, they don't want to admit it. But this dude said it because all of the black women are trying to figure out, why is it that y'all keep stampeding over us against these white girls? And he told it. So when she says you look like somebody who dated a white girl, they're accustomed to black men running over them to get to the white girl.
And I
It's
knew that. I
way
knew
worse
that.
in Brazil than it is in the U.S.
I knew that logically. It's just that the way
Yeah.
she asked it, it was kind of like, it was just kind of off put. I'm like, damn, you're black. I'm taking you out on a date. You're out with me. I'm paying for everything. How can you ask me that question?
You know what, Dennis?
You are preto tipo A is what they call it. Okay, preto tipo A. That means, you know when Kevin Samuels used to talk about high value man.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay, so when they say somebody is a preto tipo A, it's like you are the top on the menu. You got money. You look good. You got luxurious clothes. When I said about that guy Baku and Shoot the Blues, that's the man that they're all looking for. They want to. I did a story about this a couple months ago. It was like, and I have to translate this for you, but it was like, we don't want the neguinho, we want the negoon. The neguinho is like the little black kid. He's not too handsome. He's kind of shy. He's an average looking guy. He's small in his stature. Not only do they want the big black man, he's over 6 foot. He's in shape. He's muscular. He's got a good job. He's got a luxurious car. He lives in a nice neighborhood. That's the black man they want. If they not go get that black man, and it's not enough for them to go around in Brazil, they'll settle for an average white guy. I've seen it.
You
Sound
know
like
what else?
here. Sound like the U.S.
You know what else is funny? I get more play from the white Brazilian than I do from the black ones.
Ain't that something?
And the
Ain't that
killing part,
something?
it must be on both sides because we was at a club and we were going after the black Brazilian chicks. The white Brazilian chicks was looking at us like we was crazy. Like, I'm
Listen.
standing here.
Yeah, they
Yeah,
had their
man.
feelings
How
hurt.
dare you?
They was mad.
How dare
I've
you
heard
pick
this
those girls?
Exactly.
over and over. Well, like I said, that's why Brazil is such is there. I don't, man.
It's
It's frustrating,
it's the
dude,
alternate
because it's
universe.
coming from both sides. It's coming from both sides. They're both. I did an article called "Black Men and Black Women Pointing the Finger at Each Other." Like, they use the term palmitagem. Palmitagem is a term that they use when they feel like a black person has a predilection to get with a white person, right? There's this actor. I just did a video on him. Watch this video from maybe about 3-4 weeks ago. It's a popular actor. His name is Rafael Zulu. Man, I remember when he was dating a black girl. And I have to find this interview because it was funny how he said it. He was like, yeah, my black girl is, yeah, my girlfriend is black right now, but I'm open to date anybody. And I'm like, dog, within 3 or 4 months, he dropped her and got with a white girl.
Wow.
They not going to flat out. In the United States, black men will tell you, look, I'm opening up my options. I'll take white girls and Latinas because of this reason, because of black women. Black men in Brazil is not telling you that openly. You got to pull them to the side for them to tell you, like, dude, where's this coming from? One of my boys down in Belo Horizonte, and he told me this. He was like, dude, I can't marry no black chick down here. He says all the women in my family is, what is the word they use? They use this word called mandonas, and they say the black women that I know, they're all bossy. They all want the last word. They all scream at their husbands. They all run the household. He was like, I can't do with that. He says, all my sisters, my mama, my aunt, they all like that. That's the first time I had heard that. So what else is going on in Brazil? Yeah.
And what else does that sound like?
Hey, man, it is
Yeah.
what it is, man.
Yeah.
Now, mind you, I don't want anybody to get the idea I'm saying every black woman in Brazil is like
Oh,
that.
no,
But
no,
what
no,
I'm
no,
saying is
no, no.
there's enough black men saying that I was just like, whoa, really? It's like that? I didn't believe it. But you talking to enough brothers, they're not gonna say it openly. But if you speak to them one-on-one, some people is gonna let you in on that little secret, because that kind of blew me away. I didn't even know that.
Wow.
And you know what? And that's the big thing with that situation. Because we as Americans, even though we have the status, and like Dennis said before, until you really open your mouth, they think you're that. So if you don't match the top tier Brazilian dude, then they're still going to ignore you. And in some instances, they may not, once they find out that you a gringo, they still may not. Even you have all these qualifications, sometimes they don't think they qualify for you. That's the crazy part. They don't think that they're attractive. It's like
You know what?
like Dennis said, you know, you date white girls, and it's like, no. And then you tell them like, yo, I'm attracted to you because of this, because of that, and because they have been told that they're not attractive, they don't think that they're worthy of your admiration. It's I'm
Hey,
telling you,
man,
it's crazy shit.
I listen. This is what I'm saying. Whenever I would hang out in Brazil, I'm like, if you're looking for, man, you have to be sure of what you're looking for, because I thought that what you should look for would be within the black militancy circles, but that's not necessarily so, because the black militancy circles are all wrapped up in leftist politics. I used to have, my girlfriend was black. I used to have women who were involved in the movement in some type of way, and they would look at me like, Mark, you don't know how inspirational that you are, that you came here from the States, and your girlfriend here is a brown skinned black woman. They wanted to like hold me up as like a statue of progress. Like, dang, this black American is dating a clearly black woman here. So you got your pick of the litter. But what I'm saying is, you better be careful, because if she's mixed up in the leftist movement, y'all gonna clash in some type of way, because we done already seen it in the U.S.
Yeah. It's
I'm
the
saying,
playbook that they ran here, and now they know that it works, so they're gonna run the same play: I formation up the middle, and bam, touchdown.
Yeah.
people don't want to hear it.
21
People don't want
blasts.
to hear it.
21 blasts.
But they don't realize that we can read the play.
Dennis,
We can read the play at the line of
Dennis,
scrimmage.
brother, you said something very powerful, and G and I have had this conversation numerous times, and we have told him, I said, them games that you trying to run on us, they were made in the States. It doesn't work
Yeah.
on us. I'm like, you think you're gonna run for
Well,
us?
I mean,
We will moonwalk away from your ass like that statue up in Santa Teresa. Don't get it twisted.
Eric,
For real.
That's what
I told
I
you.
was talking about this. I'm sorry about that.
Go
I was
ahead,
talking
Dennis.
about this.
Go ahead.
I was talking about that with DJ Philippe, and he's like, the game that they try to run, we can see it from a mile away, man. You know what I'm
Right.
saying?
Dude.
But the
Dude,
Brazilians,
when
We can see the play.
they're
We
new
can
to
see the
it.
play developing.
Yeah. I'm like, I'm Luke
when
Kuechly in the
I
middle linebacker.
when I learned what black women were reading, in the last 15 years, they have been just translating mad text from black American authors. Okay, there's some. I was surprised because they had translated the ISIS papers. They had somebody had translated that by what is her name? What's the sister's name? She died about 5-6 years ago. She wrote the ISIS papers.
Bill
You remember?
Hooks.
Press
No.
Wilson.
They Frances Cress Welsing.
Yeah,
They
yeah.
love Bell Hooks. They love Angela Davis. They love Kimberly Crenshaw. So these are all people who they've done seminars down in Brazil. So they set this up years ago. So when I see ISIS papers, that's one thing, but they're translating the stuff that's traditionally coming out of the left in the United States. And I'm saying, I'm never going to say this is going to happen there, but I'm just saying, if we've already seen this happen before, what makes them think it's going to be different there? The worst thing to me is that they've already been mixed up. They've already been social engineered to prefer whiteness, and then on top of that, you're gonna throw in something that's meant to divide black men from black women, and then they don't see it. Like,
They don't. They
do
don't.
what you're gonna do. Do what you're gonna
Yeah.
do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They rather cash out for cash and prizes because they think they're going to get something along with the social status. I'm going to get my white man. I'm going to get my 40 acres and a mule, or 40 acres and a Caprinia, and I'm going to get a million. Hey, Ice, I'm going to be in the game, and I'm going to leave
Yeah.
the black man behind. And what happens is you get left with nothing. You a side chick, you get 3 or 4 bambinos, and then you out there, you a woman of leisure and Villa Mimosa. So
Mimosa.
Woo!
Mark, I got a question.
What
I
is
got a
it?
question. We talked
What's
about
up?
feminism, right?
Mm-hmm.
We talked about feminism, right? So
Mm-hmm.
a lot of my subscribers.
Oh, Dennis, you
Oh
froze. Hold on.
man, no, dog, don't do it.
Wait a minute. Oh man.
Man, fell off.
Yeah, let's give him a second, Mark. Mark,
Yeah.
he'll come back. He'll come back. There we go.
Yeah.
There we go.
Okay. Okay. Try it again.
Try it again, Dennis.
Okay. So a lot of my subscribers, some of my subscribers, they express their concerns about feminism growing in Brazil, and I often say that I don't see feminism getting the traction in Brazil that it has in the United States because they don't have the judicial system and the media to back them up. What are your thoughts on that?
Dude, I wouldn't say that at all, because what I'm saying is, my contact in Mina Jedi, he talks about the fear. He won't even come on a live stream and show his face, because he says the way it's going politically there, if you know what the current president Lula is doing his 3rd term, and he was talking about Lula's wife. He was like, man, they've already shooken up the manosphere, where there's people who's dropping off, leaving their platforms because they're afraid of being criminalized. My man shut down all of his social networks. So what I'm saying is, it starts off in the metropolitan regions. It starts off in the big cities that you all know, but that it is spreading. So I can never say that it can't get to the proportions that it is in the U.S. The only reason it won't is because Brazil is not their economy is not as big as the United States. It's going to be a
Right.
little bit slower, but it's going to be a major advance, because we're seeing signs of this everywhere. There was a guy, it's a white red pill guy in Brazil. Man, they went after him. He didn't lose his platform, but they crucified him publicly. And after that happened, my man, who I'm telling you about in Bay Guy, he shut down all his social networks. Like, man, we don't have the ability to express ourselves like expression of freedom as you do in the United States. It's people running for cover already. So be very careful with that, because I can see it coming.
Mm.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, and
Wow.
and this is what's not talked about, Dennis, in the YouTube spaces. And guys, they get upset when I try to say, yo, the environment has changed a lot faster than people realize. It's like, because Lula, Bolsonaro left, Lula's in, and then you're starting to see like he said, all 3 movements are being pushed. But from what I've been able to see, the ones that are really benefiting from are the ones in the rainbow coalitions. Skittles being thrown up in there and stuff like that. That's what I've been seeing benefiting the most. And the black men have been the least. So, it's
Listen.
just we don't want guys to think it's all peaches and cream down there, and you're gonna get up there and get you, like I said, Caprahina and a Bunda, and you're gonna live your life ghetto fabulous. It ain't gonna happen. And dudes get mad
Man,
at us when we try to say something like
it's
that.
this is too much to unpack, man. I can't even do it all in one episode, but you're gonna be amazed. All of the followers, everybody who's listening, listen. Personally, I've been in Brazil for 24 years. Brazil has changed drastically from when I first started going in the year 2000. It is not the same. Now, take it or leave it. Some people say, well, this has been social progress. Things have changed for the better. But as I was somebody who followed Brazil from a racial perspective, all of this stuff that was coming in on the left, I didn't recognize it until I started checking it out in the U.S. And I'm like, dang, that's the same shit I'm seeing in Brazil. And it's just there, and it's in your face. That's what happened with Austin Holloman. Did nobody tell him? He ran into a brick wall. They ran him up out of the country. I'm like, dude, this is not Brazil 2004. It's Brazil 2024.
Mm.
It
One
is
thing I
what it is.
noticed, one thing I noticed when I came to Brazil for the first time in 2013 is that you didn't see a lot of black people on television. I didn't see a lot of black people. The only time I saw black people was like on the news or sports. But now that's changing a little bit more.
Let me tell you something. Now, I haven't discussed this on my YouTube channel. I haven't even done a post on this, but Black Brazilians have demonized Brazil's media ever since I started following Brazil. It was like there was not many black people on TV. When they did show up, they didn't have even family. They was just like an extra black person on the show. You know, they were the driver, you know, the limousine driver, they'll be the cab driver, they'll be the criminal, they'll be the drug dealer, what they call the malandro, whatever. People complained about that for years. Then they slowly started introducing like these little black shows here and there that were highly criticized because they still lived off of these stereotypes. So when we start seeing so many black Brazilians it's amazing. I have to say I am amazed at how many black people you're seeing in movies. Alternative media has opened up the door for black Brazilians that was not possible because Brazil's traditional mainstream media did not want it. They didn't think black people sold. It was like, we can't put too many black people on this show. Ain't nobody going to watch it. But the scream got so big, it's like, we got to start putting more black people on these shows. Netflix came along. There's mad Brazilian movies on Netflix. But
Yes,
here's the thing
there
that
is.
I discovered. Yeah. There's a movie that just came out called Bionicles. It means bionic. That movie is crazy. But look, let me finish what I'm saying. I'm like, why all of a sudden is Global the main channel that they've argued against for being racist and excluding black people? All of a sudden, Global is leading the charge, not only in the television industry, but also in the film industry. They got a major chunk of Brazilian cinema is produced through Global's cinema arm. What I discovered is that Global TV has a deal with the United Nations to promote diversity. So what does they mean by diversity? Yeah, we're going to throw black people in there, but if we're going to throw black people in there, you're going to also accept the feminist agenda and the LGBT agenda. It's coming from the United Nations. Peep
Well,
that.
they always connect black with everybody else.
Yeah,
You
that's
know,
exactly
there's
what they're
never no
doing.
separate thing for
Mm-mm.
us. It's always if the government or any governments give us anything, or which they don't, but if they give us something, they're going to include it,
That's
everyone
right.
else into it.
That's what they're doing in Brazil too. Exactly what they're doing.
Yeah, the zesty agenda.
It's a trap. It's a
Yeah.
trap, and because they're so happy to see this inclusion, all of a sudden they don't have a problem with, okay, bring all of this in here too. So it's all mixed up together. The same thing the Democratic Party is running on us in the United States, they're running this out of Brazil's left down in Brazil. So I see it very clearly.
See, this is the underbelly of Brazil that people don't talk about.
Yeah, that's it.
Of course.
That's it.
And
Yeah.
Dennis, I'm telling you, and Mark can tell you, I've been trying to get him on us to do a live for the longest time, and our schedules and stuff just didn't come up. But and even in talking to you and Raphael and other people that are in Brazil a lot more, it's like, yo, things have changed dramatically. And if you're talking about just leaving the states and going to greeter pastures, you need to step back and look at it. But because everybody's flocking there because Brazil is hot and you're filming scenery, you think that it's a paradise. And I'm like, yo, this is not really what it is. Make an informed decision. Oh, well, you a hater. You don't know what you're talking about. Or you just trying to stop us from living our best life. Oh, well, go ahead and live that life and get that work. And don't come back upset because it wasn't what you thought it was.
Tried to tell you.
Because I get I get some guys every once in a while. A guy will write me. He'll say, "Dennis, I want to move to Brazil." I said, "Have you been to Brazil yet?" He's like, "No." And I say, "Listen, I don't advise you to up and move to Brazil right away. Visit a few times, meet people, make connections, see the good, the bad, and the ugly, and then decide on whether you there. Because there is bad and ugly."
You don't speak a lick of Portuguese. Come on, man.
That's the other thing. Take a Portuguese course. There's so much stuff online. Now, don't go to Brazil if you don't speak at least mediocre Portuguese. Don't do it. You can't have real conversations with people and know where these people are going if you can't understand what they're saying.
You can't function. You can't function.
No,
You
no,
can't.
but hey,
And the further outside of Rio that you go, the more you need Portuguese. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like I
Yeah.
didn't feel comfortable going to other cities in Brazil until I thought my Portuguese was strong enough.
Right.
Yeah.
But it's
Mhm.
definitely worth learning.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
When I touched
All
down in
right, Mister.
Belo, I was go ahead.
go ahead, G. Finish your statement. I think
No,
Mark got to go, but go ahead.
okay, but when I touched
Yeah.
down in Belo, I was more uncomfortable not knowing as much Portuguese as I did in Rio because it was a big difference. Like dang, I really got to start learning this Portuguese because I was further
Mhm.
away from the tourist area.
That's exactly what it is. The further away you get from the large metropolitan area, the more you're going to need Portuguese, most definitely.
Hmm.
Yeah, definitely, most definitely. Okay,
Mhm.
well, I want to let you go, but let me just say a couple things first. I want to
Mhm.
thank you for coming on and sharing your vast wisdom and experience with us
Thank you, brother.
tonight. And like I said, this is the first in a whole bunch of series that we're gonna be doing together. It's
Oh
gonna be
yeah.
the tag team champions talking about Brazil. DJP, bro, you always welcome, brother. You always can have a seat at the table, BMO. You know how we
Come
get
back,
down.
brother.
Um, but but Mark, I want to give you final thoughts, and then I'm gonna let you
Yeah.
go. So I'm
Mm.
gonna put you on the big screen, so you get to rise and shine all by yourself.
Oh, dog.
Yeah, we fancy over here.
Hey man, look, all I want to say is there is so much to learn about Brazil. This has been almost a quarter of a century for me. There's a lot to learn about Brazil if you want to learn Portuguese. If you're really intrigued about the culture, about the history, to me it is fascinating because I like to see what happened with another African descendant population. So I'm saying you cheating yourself if you think you're going to Brazil just to find women. Brazil is much more than that. Get to learn it, get to learn the language, and it's going to do wonders for you when you start visiting there. And from there, it's going to be easier perhaps to find a woman that you're looking for.
Yes.
All right.
Well,
All right, hey
Well
man, I
said.
appreciate you. We'll be in contact, and
Yeah, we will.
we're gonna do big things in the future. And
Let's
but
do it.
like I said, once again, man, I appreciate you, brother. Have a good
Hey
night.
man, it's good. Hey man, it's good talking to all of y'all, man. We got to do this again.
We will
Yes,
be doing this
looking forward.
again.
Yes, yes,
Looking
please.
All
forward
right,
to it.
man. Take care, man.
All right,
All right,
brother.
y'all stay up. Good
All right,
evening.
man.
Send me
Stay
that.
blessed, brother.
Send me the video. Send me the video. All right.
I will. I will. All right, Dennis. I'm gonna give you a couple minutes to say a couple things, and then you know, we're gonna we're gonna shut it down. So I'm gonna give you your chance to sign your chance to shine. Say a couple words, and then I'm gonna let you go.
well, thanks, man. It's been a very, very informative stream. Glad to have met the brother. And it's good that we talk about these things so guys won't go down to Brazil and get tripped up because they were not aware of the underbelly of the country.
Right,
So I'm
right,
glad we were
right.
able to discuss.
Well, like I say, man, Dennis, anytime you want to come up, man, you are more than welcome. Like I said, I value your input, expertise, and we want to give guys the best information that we can give, man. So that's what it's about.
Thanks, man. Much appreciated.
All right,
Thanks,
man. Hey,
Dennis.
I'll holler at you.
All right, take
All
care.
right, brother.
All right, all right, G. What do you got to say, man?
Man, I just think this is like one of our best ideas that you guys came up with. Kudos to you guys, man, because you got to know the good, the bad, the ugly on things, and then make your educated guess on things. Because once you get to Brazil, you're gonna say, "Oh, this is it. This is what I found," and go to other countries to see if it compares. If you really want to do so, I guess basically what I'm saying is, don't just jump off the porch without seeing where you're gonna land at. You know.
Yeah, man. Most definitely, man. Most definitely, man. And you know what? It is good to have these conversations, like Dennis said. You know, I talked about it last week, and I'm reiterating what I said. It's like you need to make a informed decision. There's a lot of misinformation out here, so we're here to bring you information that you can use. And Dennis Jean Pierre, he has a plethora of knowledge. You seen Mark, BB&T. Yo, if you haven't subscribed to his channel or you go into his website, check the links in the description box. They're there. Please go and look at some of the information he has, because from what you just heard tonight, that's just a smidgen of the information that he has to offer. And like I said, we're going to be doing an ongoing series talking about different aspects of it. And this was a great stream tonight. And like you said, G, I really do appreciate you coming up, man, and being here and listening to what we had to say. So, hey, man, appreciate you, brother. All right, man. So my final thoughts for tonight. First and foremost, I want to thank Mark from BB&T coming up. I really appreciate him. Man, I just learned so much. And he confirmed a lot of stuff that we had already been talking about. I want to thank DJ P for coming up. Dennis, if you're not subscribed to his channel, please go and do so. Once again, that brother is showing you the ins and outs of different places of Brazil that most people don't even think about going to. And lastly, Black Man's Option, we're here to inform. We're here to give you the best information possible so that you can make a well-informed decision. And you heard what BB&T said. Don't rush down there thinking that you're going to find the woman of your dreams. Do your research, put in some work, get with like-minded brothers, like the Black Man's Option, and let us give you information and help guide you in making the best decision. Because moving to another country and you don't have a plan for it, you could set yourself up for disaster. And we don't want that to happen. We want to give you the best information we can so that you can make the best decision you can, so that you can live the best life that you can as an American Black man, because you deserve that. So once again, I appreciate everybody coming out. Stay tuned. We're going to have another segment with BB&T, but also we're going to have the interview with an attorney. This is another asset that we have that we're going to introduce y'all. An attorney that lives in Rio de Janeiro, Afro-Brazilian guy. He's going to be talking about the legalities of you going to Brazil and why you may need an attorney while you're there in Brazil, just in case you get into some type of trouble that you cannot get out of. We also, and I think that's going to be an important aspect as well, because a lot of people are just naked traveling. They don't have travel insurance. They don't have any contacts there. The embassy, even though you may let them know that you're there, if something pop off and you're in a country that has no extradition treaty or any type of reciprocity, then you may be stuck like Chuck. So the attorney, Marcus, he's going to come on the show and he's going to give some insight that is also important for you going to Brazil, because having legal representation in Brazil, it could be a lifesaver, as he's going to explain one of the stories that he just recently was able to litigate. So last but not least, I want to thank everybody for coming out tonight. I know I keep saying that, but man, it's been a journey for us. I'm really happy for the people that came and listened tonight and understand what we are. We the Black Man's Option. We are Charles Tyler's legacy group. We're here to continue what he started, and we're going to continue to do so. And what that means is everybody's not going to be able to come along. Some of y'all are not going to be able to catch the flight with us. You're just going to have to ride in the back. And that's just the way it is, because we want to make sure that Black men understand their power when they travel and how much power we have as American Black men. That's why our logo has a crown on the top, because we're kings everywhere we go. With that being said, y'all take care. Oh, and happy Father's Day to all the fathers that are tuning in, and especially the ones that have gotten off that child support and got your passport. I salute to y'all. All right, man, I got to go catch this flight, man. Y'all take care. Have a good night, and we'll holler at y'all next week.
Everybody in here was picked, selected, chosen. You are a difference maker. You are special. You are somebody. You're a conduit of change, and that's what we're going to do, change things. I don't know if y'all know it, but we're going to win. I don't know if you feel it, but we're going to win. I don't know if you can see it, but we're going to win. You got to understand we're going to win right now. not later. Right now. Everybody in here is a change agent. We could go down the line and every last one of you have a story how you provoke change wherever you've been, in some form or fashion. It ain't no normal guys in here. Everybody's been through something, they come out of it, but you changed the game wherever you've been. Am I right or wrong? You just got to believe. I believe it. You got to believe it.
This is Charles Tyler over at the Black Man's Option. Remember, I showed you the door. Only you can walk through it. Let's see what the world is all about. Charles Tyler signing off for the Black Man's Option. Check y'all later.